Without further ado, let's once again welcome all our panelists. Hopefully, today's panel discussion will be interesting because we have touched the recent topics in education, that is reimagining education, touching innovation, equality, and lifelong learning. Let me start today's question from Dipti ma'am. Ma'am, could you please check your microphone?
Hello, yes.
Will that work?
Yes.
Okay. Lifelong learning and skills. The question will be centered around it. With the rapid pace of change, how can education systems encourage a culture of lifelong learning beyond school and university?
Thank you, Naveen sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's afternoon. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you, Sam sir, for having me here. I think I am a role model of lifelong learning. I've been learning and I'm still learning. I'm a PhD scholar right now. I believe that it's a way of life. Learning, first of all, everybody has to understand is very different to just being educated. So the science of learning says that learning is something that you have to learn to unlearn and relearn. As adults, it's a very difficult task to do. So how do we change that? The 21st century skills that is redefined by the job market are 4 things. First, reading and writing, which I think all of us require, because if you don't know how to read and write, you will not be able to put the prompt in the AI as well. Second is data analysis. It's very important to learn how to read the data. Third is collaboration and communication. That is something that each and every person requires to do in any field, not only just in education. And the fourth, and the most important, is lifelong learning. So how do you do that beyond schools and colleges is something that all of us educators must put our hands together and work together collaboratively. It is not a very difficult task, but also it is something that you have to go beyond your own mindset. Because in schools, we are still stuck with teaching children content from books. And if we are going to do that, we are not going to really achieve in making our children critical thinkers or creative learners. So how do you do that in schools and colleges? You need to go beyond your classroom walls. And going beyond the classroom walls, I'm sure they are going to talk more about the innovation and the equity, and I don't want to go there. But what I believe is you need to provide ample opportunities for the adults more than the children. Like right now, Mr. Thira showed us that AI is the thing. So if you don't know how to use technology, you're outdated. And to learn technology, just learning one technology right now is not going to be enough. I'm sure none of us knew that ChatGPT or Suno.com is going to come in 2023 or 24, 25. We knew AI was coming, but we didn't know it would come in such a rapid growth. So how do you actually make that happen is building that into the system of your organization by making sure that you give adults ample opportunities to have short-term courses, give a lot of mentorship, and you also become a role model. Because if you are going to tell others to keep learning and if you don't learn, then you are not a role model. So I'd like to end here right now to say that that is what you can do by giving courses, by mentoring, and also being a role model. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipti madam. So we are today assembled in this beautiful room, hall. This is also part of lifelong learning. Learning never ends. Every day, every moment we are learning. This is the opportunity we have got. Thank you, Dipti ma'am. Now I want to take our Laxman sir to reimagining education, right? That's today's theme. How do you define the idea of reimagining education in today's world?
Okay. Thank you, sir. In fact, I agree with all those keynote speakers and panelists. In fact, rethinking, thinking again, going back to the history, or looking forward to the future, that is reimagining. And in our education sector, we need to be updated. We need to be moved. We need to go forward according to time, according to change. Before answering your question, I want to share one idea which I had faced 2 months back. In Pokhara, we had organized one national summit for the principals. In fact, we had invited 1,000 principals to be there in that education summit. And we provided them a form to be filled in online platform. That's why we could recognize them and we could find their necessities about food and so on. But nearly only 143 principals got success to fill. They filled, only 143 principals filled that form in online. That's why I like to join this event, this incident with this reimagining about future. In my opinion, we all are educators, teachers, parents, students, farmers, engineers, doctors, whether we discuss about Dhami, Jhakri, Sureni, whatever we have in our society, in our locality, they all are educators, they all are teachers. And then I think they need to be learned, we need to be there, we need to be updated. That's why we can have that idea about reimagining. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Laxman sir. Now, let me ask questions to Dr. Bauram Adhikari. He has significantly been, working in policy, national education policy as well, right? So there was one question. What role should governments and private sectors play in bridging urban, rural, and gender gaps in education? Right?
Thank you, Navinji. Respected all. Good afternoon to you all. Very important questions. In education sector, first of all, I would like to say one thing, that is not only government sector, not only private sector. This is a matter of all. This is the matter of all. To improve each and every steps of education, then the role of all is very important. Yes, that's why we say education for all, and the role is also for all. All stakeholders should be engaged in this matter. Now, I want to go on your questions, that is, role of government. That is important. Role of government. Again, role of government. We think only about the role of government. Yes, it is very important. But in our regions, what we are seeing here, the role of government is always, that is a fluctuation or changing. There are so many reasons. One is political instability is the major one. That is why one policy is generated. Without implementation, then another policy is changed. That's the big problem here. Second one is the role of government. Automatically, that is a policy making. Policies should be based on the reality, based on the fact, based on the needs of the stakeholders, based on the needs of our key stakeholders, not only stakeholders, key stakeholders. Who are they? That is children, teachers, educators, guardians, and other agencies and other partners. So what is happening here, what I see, the policy is not that is made based on those things which I explained here. Yes, that is a very big problem. And as per the private sector, then that is a partnership role. There are so many models. Because of the lack of the time, then I will explain one or two. Public-private partnership is also coming here. But it is also not very much relevant in education sector. We have to define what parts should be led by private sectors and other by others and others. That is why role should be very clear, very transparent, because this is the education. Without education, we cannot imagine anything more. So the role is different, but the role should be more transparent, and the role should be accepted by the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bauramadikari, sir. Education scenario is more or less similar in SAARC region. We are facing same challenges. So let me ask a question to Usaveti ma'am. SAARC nations share common challenges in education. What lessons can we learn from each other?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone here. Very fortunate to be here today. Yes, when we talk about the SAARC nations, one of the most important challenges that we face is foundational learning gaps. This is, I think everybody will agree with me. Whichever country we talk about in SAARC nation, foundational learning gaps is something which is very, very challenging. And UNICEF had conducted one survey prior to COVID, wherein they had conducted the survey on 10-year-old kids and on their learning skills, reading skills, comprehension skills, and only 1/3 could actually pass that particular test. And very alarming is post-COVID, that has dropped to half. So when we talk about challenges, this is one of the major challenges I see from where I stand. This is something that needs to be addressed, and especially so in platforms like these when global educators and principals are coming together, policymakers are coming together. Another very important challenge that I can see is shortage of teachers. We do have schools, we do have wonderful infrastructure, but we do talk about teacher training, but shortage of teachers is something which is another alarming point that I would like to put forward. Third point, I can look at it as absenteeism of students. I hope I am putting facts forward. So absenteeism of students is another thing which is a very alarming situation in all the SAARC nations. And when we talk about these kind of challenges, and ma'am, Dipti ma'am very rightly mentioned about lifelong learning activities and all, we need to actually look into the remedial solutions to make sure that these challenges are first met. So when we talk about any kind of a policy that rolls forward, we first need to make sure that the foundational learning gap is really being filled, and we need to give more stress and focus on that point. Then later on comes, trying to make sure that there are certain kind of perks given to the students so that they come to the school, maybe midday meals can be provided. Then we talk about the teacher training sessions, wherein online training sessions can be given. Very wonderful platforms are provided for 1,000 principals coming together. Such kind of activities will really blend the education of what Dheeraj sir mentioned, AI in education, and in today's world it is really needed, where all of us can come together and make sure that we are working together in unison, not in silos. Sir.
Thank you, madam. We have common problems in South Asia region. Let me ask a question now to Dr. Bauramadikari, sir. So we often talk about building an equal access to disadvantaged groups, marginalized groups, and even children belonging to lower classes, poor classes, right? We often talk about equality and equity. So in Nepal's context, the bill is going to be passed from the House. So my question is, how can we ensure quality education access to all children, be it from a lower class family or disadvantaged or marginalized? Can you relate it to SAARC context?
Thank you, Naveenji. Very prominent questions. First of all, for these, the first step should be that it's a policy. equitable policy, policy for all. That is the major one. Second one is changing the mindset of all the stakeholders, even the parents or the guardian themselves. How they change the mindset? What I see in the SAARC region, more or less the problem is same. Yeah. So parental education or the mindset of parents or that is other policymakers, mindset is the very important one. If the mind is changed, mindset is changed, and if we can think positively, then we can do better. That is a second thing. And the third one is, what we are seeing, is there good and relevant or appropriate infrastructures to attract all pupil or all the children equally there? That is my question. Therefore, the first one is policy making. Second one is mindset of all. Even the most important part is the mindset of changing the mindset of the parents. And third one, the good and appropriate infrastructures, management infrastructures. And next one is, for all these things, the major part is financing education or allocation of the fund for this right purpose. Budgetary part, management of the budgetary parts. These are the major things here. And the third one is curriculum also. Our curriculum is more or less than, I don't like to say copied, but that is a traditional one. The major thing is copied, but I don't like to say copied, but that is a traditional one, more or less outdated one. The children are interested in one part. Our curriculum is in another part. The parents in our Nepali cultures, in the big festival, if the parents or the guardians or the senior blessing to the children, what they say? They say, try to be a doctor, try to be the engineers, or try to be the scientist. But have you heard some words, try to be a good teachers? That's the question. That's the question. Therefore, all these things or these parameters are affecting in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Coming to lifelong learning, Diptu ma'am has been practicing lifelong learning in your, I believe, in her institution, where teachers are learning, even parents are learning, students are also learning. Please share your own experiences. How have you implemented in your institution, where teachers also have to prove that they are carrying it out in the right way in terms of teaching learning? Please share your experiences, madam.
Thank you, sir. I would like to echo what Dr. Usha and your doctor said, Mr. Babulan also said. We all know the problems. We know the challenges, so we don't have to keep repeating the challenges again and again, that we have a dearth of teachers, shortage of teachers, our parents' mindset, the policies, the budget, these are our challenges. Now, having said that, it's been 30 years that I've been in the education sector. And when we started my school, and I started with preschools and I moved on into a bigger school, I realized that there is a big gap of reading. I brought in an international curriculum. Right now I am a trainer for the international curriculum for fieldwork education in ICA in London. And when I started, it was very frustrating. I was irritated, which we are not supposed to be, Mr. Dhiraj, but I was really frustrated. I went back to my mentors and I said, okay, we have all this curriculum, we have all these books, and my teachers are not just reading them. What shall I do? And then my mentor said, after school, in the evening, can you stay with everybody for an hour and read with them? And that's how I started the culture of learning and reading in my school. Because if I told them, please read 5 to 10 pages and come, they would not read and come. So how do you even make people understand? Because people have to internalize their learning. You cannot put things like putting a medicine, like a spoonful of medicine in a mouth. So once I started doing that, I kind of made that culture in the school that teachers have to learn. They felt that we know. We've done our masters in this particular subject, and I know what I know. And my work is to deliver the content to the children. Once they started reading, they started realizing that, okay, there is a lot to do. We need to learn. There are many things that we don't know. And that's how I started the learning culture of my teachers, where I started doing a lot of training. We did a lot of PD, professional development, on need basis. Of course, initially we started with any kind of professional development courses, but then we started looking at the need base. Okay, what is it that they require? Then came the parents. Of course, always the difficult part. Parenting is easy. It's very easy to get them here and talk to them, and then, maybe some of them are listening, like some of you are listening and some of you are not listening. Because when someone speaks, they say that you only take in about 7% of what that person is actually saying. So to make them interactive, how do you actually get them to interact and to get them to do the things that you want them to do and to understand and comprehend what we are trying to tell them? So we did a lot of parenting session, meaning during the curriculum evenings, we would get group of parents and then let them do what our children were doing. So that's how we started. In fact, we created a lot of digital platforms, where we made a lot of Google Forms to ask the parents what are their needs, what are the children's needs, and what are they expecting out of their children. So there were many, I think we did a lot of practices that helped in the school to make our parents understand that learning is a lifelong skill. You need to learn how to learn as well. That's a very good modality that you can start off in any organization, because if you don't know how to learn, then there's a problem. Because a child or an adult needs to know how I learn best. Maybe I learn best visually, or I learn best kinesthetically, or I learn best auditory, whatever it could be. But पहिला आफैले पनि बुझ्नु पर्यो के, how do I learn best? What are my strengths? Do I need to take a lot of notes? Do I need to do a lot of peer-to-peer sharing? So that learning how to learn is also very important. That is where we did a lot of practices in the school, and that worked, I feel. Because nowadays when parents come to my school, they know what they expect in the school. We do not only give content. Content is important, because giving exam is also a skill, right? So how do you build those skills? And skill means, you need to looking at technology is also a skill, communication is a skill, collaboration is a skill, decision-making is a skill, creativity is a thing, critical thinking is a skill. So there are many skills that is necessary that we need to provide. And that is not provided by the curriculum that is given by the government, sorry to say. It is not enough. They're doing well, like in 1, 2, 3, they've started the integrated curriculum in Nepal. I don't know about the other SAARC countries. I mean, I love how CBSE has really changed over the years. They've really changed their way of assessing. They've changed the way of evaluating. I wish we could change our way of evaluating. And then we'll be able to provide and imagine a future of learning and a future of people who can actually believe in innovation, believe in equity and equality, because then the people will start respecting diversity and also believing in sustainability. I think that is also a very important thing, and being consistent with what you do. So my mantra in my school is being consistent in whatever we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipti Madam. Now let me ask a question to Laxman Shrestha sir. In the context of, in the global scenario, COVID taught us lessons, even in terms of teaching learning, right? Now we are forced to resort to online learning, e-learning, many more, right? So we also discuss about AI and then changing practices in teaching learning. So related to this topic, how can technology and digital learning transform classrooms in the next decade? Technology and digital learning transform classrooms. what sort of changes we can expect in the next decade?
In fact, I think there is not any answer for this question because we cannot guess about tomorrow. Not decade, not 10 years. Within 24 hours, what will happen in the field of this innovation, science, technology, ICT, and so on. But again, in general, what can we all say that? It's not only my burden to say. We all can say that these types of technologies, these types of AI, ICT, these types of facilities, modern tools, applications can reduce different types of gap in education. Priorly, Usha ma'am was also discussing about the shortage, the lacking of teachers and learning gaps and so on. But if we use technologies, ICT, AI, inside our school, in that time it can be a useful tool or useful idea to use by all the students. If we discuss about our economic status, that is similar in all those SAARC countries. I have been in the different countries over there, and I have seen some schools. More or less, that is safe to us. But again, I think if we want to have equity, if we want to have that one learning for life, yes, for that purpose also we can use this type of innovations, technologies and so on. That's why we can minimize all those things and we can uplift our civilization. Priorly, our Dipti ma'am was also discussing about the education for parents. They can use different technologies. They can use YouTube videos or other tools at their home. And then parents can learn much more things about their life, about civilization, about country, about education, and so on. Not only that, if we find any typical problem about the students, if we input that problem, like ChatGPT or any other Gemini, yes, there are so many other platforms in AI. If we put all those problems over there, they will suggest that what types of activities, what types of behavior should we do to each and every individual students. That's why if we use AI, technology, innovation, science, ICT in the classroom, then it will be easy, it will be comfortable to discuss, to deal with the students. And priorly also in my first question, I have answered about that. But again, we need to be updated. We need to go. And I agree with that sentence. AI or science or technology cannot replace teachers, human beings. But those people, those teachers, those human beings who learn, who know, who use ICT or technology can replace those people who cannot use all those technology, all those science, all those innovations. That's why I agree with your question, and I agree whatever you have got in your mind, many types of problems can be minimized, reduced, deducted by using science technology in our school premises as well as in our home or wherever we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshman sir. We are almost towards the end of the panel discussion. Now I'm going to throw one questions to Dr. Seri. $1 million question to you. If you had to reimagine education in one sentence for the year 2050 in South Asia, what would it be?
I would love to see a world wherein the foundational level of education is absolutely strong, wherein AI is completely integrated into the system and the teachers are very well versed to use the AI in that particular system.
Dr. Adhikari, how can SAARC nations share best practices, resources, and innovations to reimagine education collectively?
Thank you, sir. Let's see the different best practices of the SAARC region countries. First of all, what is Bhutan doing now? As per my knowledge, Bhutan is practicing the community involvement, they prioritize more. If we go in Sri Lanka focus on what? Sri Lanka focus on literacy, and more or less that is 100% literacy is there, literacy rate is there. What is India focus? More and more innovation and IT part, more and more they are focusing. What Bangladesh, science and technology, they are focusing more. What Maldives, what other countries, and what Nepal? If we compare, this is not a matter of compare, this is a matter of learning. But Nepal, we are focusing more and more in gender balance and gender equality and inclusions. There are different practices. There are different practices in SAARC region. But what practices should be the common? That is the major question of today. That is priority to education and education, having so many other sectors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Echoing the idea of Professor Dr. Bidyanand Koirala, he rightly said we can do a lot of collaboration among nations, countries, cross-cultural understanding and more. So relating to the same topic, let me ask questions to Dr. Sethi again. How can regional cooperation, student exchange, teachers training, joint research can strengthen future education in the region?
Okay. So as I mentioned in my earlier question as well, we as educators cannot work in silos. We need to have global collaborations, and for that, when ex-minister sir was also mentioning that we need to have more of student exchange program, more of educators exchange program. I'm glad to share with all of you in the last 2 days that I have been in Nepal. Thanks to Sham sir, we have had a wonderful collaboration with Kathmandu World School. We have signed an MOU with them, and then very soon we will be having a student exchange program that we will be coming up in January 2026. So more of such kind of exchange programs will actually help in the cross-culture understanding of the entire country. So what Dipti ma'am was also mentioning, go beyond textbook. Because textbook will just give you the base knowledge, but at the same time, what is really required is holistic development, which your textbook cannot give you. And when you talk about beyond textbook and when you talk about this kind of education, it really helps. So in India, we do focus on a lot of teacher training sessions. There are a lot of online platforms, as Dipti was mentioning about the CBSE rolling out a lot of online platforms for teachers so that they can actually at their own pace go and study about it. And when we talk about constant teacher training sessions, understand the teacher's schedule. The teacher comes in the morning at 7 and leaves the school by 4, and back home also the teacher is doing her home course, he or she, and they are having their own life as well. So taking time out to actually go and learn something new, when we say lifelong learning, it becomes very difficult. So incorporate it into your regular schooling system, and that is how we at India follow NEP, National Education Policy, wherein we have actually focused a lot on teacher training sessions, which is mandatory, which is compulsory. So which is being done maybe once in a month on Saturdays. We are taking out time and we are focusing on that, and it is really very important. And when we talk about the student training as well, if the teachers are well equipped, obviously the students are also very well equipped. I can understand that gesture of yours. So that's from my end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sethi. Now we'll be taking 3 to 4 questions. Can somebody volunteer? Based on today's theme, I request to ask the question to our panelists.
Thank you very much for nicely discussing each and everything relating to innovation, equality, and lifelong learning. And I thought that the panelists clearly pointed out each and everything. I'd like to know regarding the lifelong learning. Now I'm working as the professor in the university, and I'm responsible to develop and updating academic curricula on a regular basis. So lifelong learning is, ensure the lifelong learning is really very difficult, okay? And we are human being, and human beings are not equal. Every human being is different with regard to the culture, customs, norms, values, beliefs, attitudes. In each and every aspect, one human being is really very different than another human being. So from the teacher's point of view or authority point of view, I would like to know, do you have any study or research, or have you developed any mechanism or methods to ensure lifelong learning in a positively? Because some people may learn the things in a negative way from the same thing. For example, if we see the cinema, Hindi cinema or English cinema, one people may learn that some things very positively, but another people may learn the things negatively. So as a moderator or as the authority or as a teacher, can we introduce or implement any new technique or any new mechanism from your own experience to bring all people into the lifelong learning positively? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This conversation can go on and on and on. It can never end. And I love the fact that as educators, we love to talk, we love to tell, we love to give a lot of knowledge. But if I have to share my own journey, I am the only accredited school for ICA in South Asia. And we are very proud of the fact that we are accredited. And it was not an easy job. We did the accreditation for 3 years. And while doing the accreditation, we realized that the vision that you have for your organization is something you have to have a shared vision rather than your own vision. So we worked on a shared vision where we made our parents, our children, our teachers, our staff, everybody was involved in that shared vision. So when there is a shared vision, the belongingness comes, the ownership comes. And while doing the accreditation, we realized, and our teachers realized, that there is a lot to learn. So the mindset is the first thing that I feel you need to tell the people around you, that we need to learn. There is no end to learning. Life is a learning process. We are learning every minute, every day. Now with children, as I said earlier, it's easier. With adults, like you said, it is difficult to cut through because adults don't want to unlearn, isn't it? I think I'm quite right in that. How you can do that is, especially in my school, what we do is we need to work on the well-being. Let's nurture our people. It can be any organization. So if you work on the well-being, that means, if you work on the mindfulness of the people around you, they need to be happy first. Everybody has to have a reason. Everybody has to have a purpose in life. Once you have that purpose in life, then you have thriving people around you. Then people want to thrive. They want to do better. They want to learn more. But you can only do that when you show the empathy towards them. You cannot just expect people, okay, please learn, please do this, please do that. When you ask people to do things, they are not going to do. But if we say, let's do it together, and making sure their well-being comes first. So in my organization, the well-being of my people, of my teachers is paramount. And how you can do that is to bring mindfulness, to bring social emotional learning into the scenario. Once that happens, I feel there is no end. And there's going to be a lot of synergy. Everybody will understand that, we need to learn. So if you can try that in your organization, working towards the well-being of your people around you, I think they will feel the need to learn. And they will want to learn. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name is Zira Mohorjan. I'm from Das Lalitpur. My question is, I want to go to out of the dash. My question is, dash भन्दा बाहिरको लागि सोध्न चाहे मैले. मलाई I'm very inspired that I forget your name, that from India. Yeah, I'm a little bit impressed with you because of your foundation educations, about the foundation education. This is questions for, I want to ask for the Vidyanath Koirala, Dr. Vidyanath Koirala. He's already, that's one of our educator said that he's known as a University of that's Nepal. मेरो चाहिँ क्वेसन चाहिँ विद्यानाथ सरलाई छ यो ड्यासभन्दा बाहिर छ क्वेसन चाहिँ फाउन्डेसन एजुकेसनमा नेपालमा तपाईँले देखेको विज्ञान के हो
Thank you, Ira sir, for giving me this kind of wonderful opportunity. I would say that learning from everywhere, as Dattatreya taught us. You know how Dattatreya taught us? Because learning from air, learning from water, learning from plant, and learning from everything. So if we generate that kind of culture, I believe that's a foundation.
Somebody from ladies side, gentlemen, two gentlemen have already asked question. Yeah, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Beena Sharma and I'm representing Ekta. So we got to learn about lifelong learning. But my question is like, we have seen children, like most of the children nowadays have started reading books as well. And we have seen the children from progressive schools, they are very good at communication even. But what is the scenario is like children, when they reach to grade 8, now they have to come to the books. And they are prepared just for the exams. So, and I think that that is where the children are from 8, now the critical thinking has to be like grown. And at that time, we prepare children for the exam, and based on that, what do we say, model questions book. So how can we have the lifelong learners when we start preparing children from that model question book? And I have seen the same scenario in that preparing SEE exam as well. And the result, what I have noticed is, the children, when they completed their SEE, they are just confused in their role, their identity, what to do in their futures. So how are we taking the lifelong learning in this way? So I want to know more about it. Thank you.
That's a really wonderful question, ma'am. You very specifically mentioned about students post their grade 8th. But when we are starting the education, it is right from kindergarten. So from kindergarten till grade 7th, the memory development, the brain development is a maximum. And the kind of grooming and the kind of teaching techniques you give the students at that age, it is really very important. Post that, when the student is going into grade 8, 9th and 10th, irrespective about which country the child is in or which board that child is studying in, it really does not matter, because the mode of learning has already set into that particular child system. Second thing, going beyond textbook. Many countries, many students I have noticed that when they are really into this kind of a higher education, not higher, secondary education, wherein boards really matter, parental guidance is really very important. Parental counseling is really very important, because we now focus more on the boards that we are supposed to be writing rather than the overall development of the child. So till grade 7th, if the child has taken music or dance or any kind of a sport, or the child has any kind of a hobby, as the child goes to that higher grade, 8th, 9th and 10th, majorly focus goes on to academics, and all the hobbies or the extracurricular activities take a setback, which should not happen. And that really helps in the overall development of the child. And when you mention about the board section, it is really very important that we are educated, we get good scores, we need to get into good universities, but at the same time, going beyond textbook at that point of time is really very, very crucial. So,
Lakshman sir, could you please add on this? Yeah, ma'am.
They are in the stage of finding identity or at the role confusion, you know. So lifelong learning is very important, but till grade 7, children listen to parents. But when they go to grade 8, because of their developmental phenomenon, like what I think is that is the exact is where children has to get time to explore themselves and find their identity, what they want to be. But we have crisis, like what I felt is there is crisis because children when complete SEE, they are still confused what they are going to be or what they are going to do next. So like, my question is there.
I
I'm
just want
talking
to add,
that. Yeah.
I got your question. We're all parents here, more than educators, so we all understand what you're going through. First of all, we have to understand how the teenage brain works, right? And like you rightly said, their prefrontal cortex has not developed completely. So they feel that they've matured, but actually they've not matured because they don't have the decision-making skills yet. That will require at least another 5-6 more years for that to truly to develop. Now, when I started my school, because I started without books, and Dr. Bidyanath is right here, and I have been one of the schools that has really challenged the Nepali curriculum, and parents actually would tell me, how will your children give SE? You don't have books. How are they going to? Yes, but then I got them to learn from the air, learn from water, learn from nature. We did a lot of outdoor learning. So by grade 7, like she said, it is very essential that you give children experiences. And by the age that they come to in grade 8, maybe 12 or 13, the brain has actually developed that they know how they learn. So it is very important for parents and educators to make sure that the children know how they learn. That is important. Now, all children will not be able to rote learn and get a 99%. It is next to impossible. Because we're all very different, we are very differently intelligent. We all know that. Just because you get a 99%, it doesn't determine that you are the most intelligent person in the room. I could be the kindest in the room, but I could be a very intelligent person, right? So, like you said, from 8 to 10, our curriculum, our policies are very much guided, not only in Nepal, but all over the world, where children have to give exams. So, right from maybe grade 4 or 5, you transition the children into ways where children know how to give exams. So that's also a skill, like I said. Giving an exam is a skill because children need to have that less fear for giving exams because a lot of children have that fear of giving exams. A lot of children, what happens is they blank out while giving exams. So that practice is there. That's why children have to do those model questions because children are expected to get a certain GPA in SCE or IB or SCBSE or wherever, right? But if you train the children in a particular way, this year my children, 60 children gave SCE and 55 of them got an A+ in my school. That means only 5 children got an A. Now, what does that prove? I very proudly announce it now, because I would never announce it. But getting an A+, like 55 children getting an A+, without them studying books until grade 5. Of course, from grade 5 onwards, you have to prepare them, you have to transition them into books. So it is an integrative way. So of course, the Nepalese government probably have not been able to look at the more holistic side, though it's all written there. It's all written in the books, it's all written in the curriculum. I don't want to undermine, what has gone into making that curriculum, but it is not really enough. And I want to come back to your reading part. From grade 8, yes, especially boys, they don't want to read. And if you don't know how to read, and if you don't know, continue reading, then how are you going to learn more? Because knowledge is important. Skill is important, but knowledge is very important. To go from one skill to another also, you need a prior knowledge and you need a new learning. So how do you give that is very important. I know in my school, I can give it because parents can afford to, and I've been able to do that because I have trained my teachers and we have developed systems. But 90% of the schools in Nepal are still struggling with this, and that is because of the policy, and that is because the children don't have access, parents don't have access. So 3 things I want to tell, and I tell this right now while we are lobbying with the government also. Can we just give a little bit to the parents? Let's talk to the parents. Let's make this a conversation. Parents in the sense who are educated and not educated. You can give them 3 things. One is financial literacy. You can give that to mothers who are not educated. One is financial literacy. Second is digital literacy. And third is health literacy. If these three things are given in short ways where they don't need to be literate, then probably we'll be able to do more. So I was talking more in the wider context. I can go on, and I know we are short of time, so I hope I've been able to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the engaging questions and the active participation from our audience side. So finally, on behalf of every one of us, I would like to thank our distinguished panelists for your valuable insights. And here ends today's first session panel discussion. Thank you very much. And now we proceed for the lunch. Thank you, Deputy Madam, Dr. Panorama, Lakshman Shrestha sir, and Dr. Sethi.